Alexis AV Talk. Let's talk about workforce development. Alexis AV Rock. You're invited to the #1 event with Alexis LaBroy.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining Alexis AV Talk. I'm excited that you're here and watching and listening and tuning in. Really appreciate it. Today, I am talking with my friends from the AV industry, Miss Alicia Henley. Hi, Alicia.
Hey, Alexis, what's happening?
Everything is good. Crazy week, but everything is good. And
It's
thank
only
you for
Monday.
joining me. Yeah. You said you had a crazy week too, huh?
yeah, it's that time.
Yeah.
That time of year.
That's great. Well, it is what it is. So you just have to, we're pushing through everything. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then I also have Miss Rachael Harris. Hi, Rachael.
Hi, Alexis. Hi, Alicia. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate both of you ladies joining. I usually don't do a whole lot of, kind of fluff at the beginning. I like to just jump in so that we can use our whole time effectively and just talk, just have our conversation. So really happy that you're both here. Alicia is my co-host today, so we're just going to be jumping in too and asking some questions. So Alicia introduced me to you, Rachael, and I'm very grateful for that. We have, I've been following you and I've seen you and, doing different conversations and presentations with folks. And, Alicia has connected us. And, some people have been talking about how collaboration is what they've been focused on this past year. And for me, it's been all about connections, right? So I appreciate the connection, Alicia. And, it's one thing to talk to people or meet people on LinkedIn or meet people by email. And it's another whole thing to actually talk with them on the phone or over video, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what I've been working on over the last year since I haven't been doing much travel. Like taking those LinkedIn connections and making them really authentic, making it more of kind of like, well, let's hop on a video, let's take this offline, and kind of turn it into like this, maybe like grabbing some coffee down at a coffee shop, even though we're virtual. So the connections, I mean, people is what's most important. So I feel like that's kind of what I'm here on this earth to do: connect other great people with other great people. So I'm happy to see that this episode is coming together. I'm just excited that you guys are able to know each
other. Me too. Thank you. So Rachael, really wanted to get to know you a little bit better. And what does your day look like, at work? What does your day look like, and how has it changed through all of this COVID era this past year?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. First of all, it's my pleasure to meet you too. This is great, and the connection and the communication over 2020 and now into 2021.
Right.
It's amazing because while there's been such a contraction of so much energy and activity, at the same time, I mean, I've experienced a real expansion of conversation, of meeting new people, of connection, of just a greatly renewed interest in the things that I do. I mean, 2018, corporate AV, like nerd, whatever, who cared? But now everybody's interested in what we're doing. And from the perspective of, like right now, most of my day is focused on live streaming, internal communication. So again, not something you go down to the local pub and tell everybody how your day was. Nobody wanted to know. And now all of a sudden, that's what everybody wants to know about. So it's been really, really interesting over this time. The amount of activity has exploded in all of the sectors where I work, and like hundreds of percents more activity in the last, what are we at? Like, well, everybody calls it a year. So we're at 1 year of pandemic now, and it's been a busy year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that in so many cases, I don't know about you guys, but my family didn't really know what I did for a long time. And so they knew before this, but they didn't really know for a long time. And I think that some other people have that same similar experience, that now their family kind of understands what they do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have to agree with that. You know, sometimes I wear my Zoom shirts that you can get from Infocom or that Gabe sends out to us. And I was walking around my neighborhood and I realized I have my Zoom shirt on. People were like, "Oh my God, you work for Zoom?" So like people that have no idea about AV are kind of like actually realizing what it is just a little bit, even if it is the tip of the iceberg. But I'm like, no, I don't work for Zoom, something like it, but not like it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, Rachel, what about you? Does your family understand what you do, or?
Yeah, I mean, same thing. I mean, my family is a little backstage educated to begin with, which is kind of how I got here. But at the end of the day, no one is as involved as I am. So everybody just thinks I'm an audio engineer, which I'll mix your show, but you don't want me to. Like, you're better off if someone else mixes your show. There are other things that I do.
We're all an expert at something. We don't have to be an expert at everything, right?
Exactly. But now everybody gets it. You know, now everybody gets it. Live streams and I think that what they get is, because everybody's a little bit closer to, basically every time you want to talk to your friends, you're shooting your own show out of your phone, right? And so I think that people in general have a little bit more understanding about all the pieces that come together to make a good looking show. Yeah, and so now they can understand a little bit more of the details of what we do to do that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Production has always been like, "What do you do?" Or like, actually, my family would come to the production and be like, "We didn't see you." "Oh yeah, I'm dressed in all black in the back." "But you saw all that? You saw all that cool stuff going on?" "Yeah, that's me right there. That's me all day."
Right.
So, but I mean, I think we all have very similar backgrounds in that notion, from the production side and the live events, and really driving this experience with our each specialized niches, whether that's audio or lighting or. Alexis, I know you lead the event from a very high level when it comes to managing everything. So, I mean, but that is what kind of all tied us together. That's why I was like, Alexis, you need to meet Rachel. Rachel, you need to meet Alexis, because we have very similar backgrounds in that front. I know, Alexis, that's what you're excited to talk about today, from the production part of what we do in the theater. So maybe we loop back a little bit, Rachel, and talk about what you do as far as the theater work that has been going on throughout the last year. You know, what does that look like?
Sure. Well, the last year has been very quiet. I mean, there really hasn't been a whole lot of theater. And, you know, some of the companies that I work with the Classical Theater of Harlem and the Harlem School of the Arts, who both, I mean, so my whole entire theater career is in Harlem. I was just very blessed to land there at a time when my career was developing, and I had a good decade of just working right in Harlem for like 10 years. But the clients that I still have there were so creative over the course of this 12 months. I mean, the School of the Arts pivoted to Zoom classes immediately, and they figured it out. They really didn't need me to do that. You know, the student services team figured that out, and, you know, I was one of the people who was kind of less essential during the pandemic. Right now, I'm starting to come back as we're bringing in more live streaming capability, and actually Harlem School of the Arts just opened up a beautiful new performance room, it's like a great hall right in the middle of the entryway. It's a gorgeous, it's just a beautiful room with like a glass wall, a brand new lighting rig, a Walter Stork designed sound system. It sounds amazing. So that opened in October, and obviously we would have wanted that to open to a lot of fanfare and a big opening, and none of those things were possible to do. So we're looking for other ways to showcase the space, and I think it has a lot of potential in whatever if you want to call it post-pandemic environment, or just however the way we do things will change over the coming years. I think it's still going to be a really, really beautiful space that has a lot of uses. So I'm looking forward to the coming months and going into the summer and really kind of exercising that space and finding out exactly what it can do, just driving it as far as we can. Classical Theater of Harlem also, they typically do one of their biggest show of the year is Shakespeare in the Park Uptown in Marcus Garvey Park in Harlem. And it's a free event outdoors in an amphitheater, and really excellent high quality shows. So I think everybody in New York right now is kind of trying to figure out what is going to happen with the summer season. Obviously, we're seeing the AV conferences go back and forth on whether they're going to be on or off, and the same thing is happening with all of the live events in the city. But I think that both of those organizations did a really great job of staying connected to their audience over the course of this pandemic, and still being able to build that energy and build that connection with their audience. So when it is time to come back, everyone will do that.
So, Rachel, it's really exciting to hear about what you're doing at the theaters and your opportunities working in the theaters in Harlem. And it makes me think about the Harlem Renaissance and just all the art and the music and all the opportunities for Black people in the arts that were based in Harlem. So tell us more about working with the students before COVID, what you did with the students, you said up to 12th grade, and then also tell us more about how you got started working in the theater groups.
Yeah, sure. So I started with the School of the Arts probably about a year and a half before the pandemic started. So I did have some time with the students. The first show I did with them was actually written by the acting students in the college prep course. And, they wrote maybe 5 plays, and we went through the whole series of plays in that evening, shorts, 1 act. And it was just really great. It was just really fulfilling experience to work with them and enjoy their approach to the work. I remember being in high school and doing my acting, and it's really interesting to watch them figure that out. So that was great. So I did the lighting and sound design for that show. And then we did a couple other shows. The way that I got started in Harlem was, everything you said about the Harlem Renaissance and the legacy that Harlem has of being an energy source for American culture, American Black culture. It's true and it's real to me, at least, and it's still going on. And so I was working in mainly event lighting at the time. So, lots of Fashion Week gigs and things like that. And I wanted to work around more minorities. I was feeling very lonely as one, Black woman out of, not that I was the only one, but just not seeing, I wanted to be around more minorities. So I made that kind of I didn't like make it part of my goals, but I wrote it. I wrote it down and I let it happen. And what the universe did for me was it brought me to a museum called El Museo del Barrio, which is in East Harlem on 104th Street and 5th Avenue. And they have there a 500-seat theater, which is absolutely beautiful. It's 100 years old. It's an old building with a fly house and just a full theater that was just waiting for someone to come and production manage it. So I got that opportunity and did that for a couple of years. And it really just kind of introduced me to Harlem community. And from there, there's another organization called City Parks Foundation. They do Summer Stage. Maybe people have heard about that around. Summer Stage. So they do big shows in Central Park. And I started doing the outer borough shows, like the smaller shows for a while. And then my boss there, his old assistant was at the Apollo, and she invited me into the Apollo. So I just kind of just started this, when the snowball rolls down the hill and all those little tiny snow connections are made, like that happened to me over that decade in Harlem. And it culminated in a great opportunity at a new venue where I worked for a long time. And again, like got to work around people who really are the pillars of the Harlem community. Like it was an amazing experience and something that I'm grateful for and like to, do my best to hang on to as much as I can. And I'd say one more thing. So I mentioned the Apollo Theater, and when you're talking about that Harlem Renaissance spirit, everybody who works at the Apollo feels it. The artists who come through the stage, like they do, you feel it. You feel that creative legacy of everyone. And to be a stage manager, to go there and work most of the time, I was a freelancer, so 3 nights a month or 5 nights a month, on a good month, you go in there and you walk on that Apollo stage and you rub that tree and you really do feel a part of something special. And it happens every single time.
That is so amazing. So last night the Grammys were on, and one of the presenters was Mr. Billy from the Apollo.
Oh my goodness.
So I don't know if you saw that. Alicia, did you watch any of it last night?
I had to catch it. I had to catch Beyonce up there winning one.
Okay.
And Blue Ivy won too. Talk about legacy. Like
right.
That's insane, right? They're passing the torch. But I had to check it out and see how they were gonna do it within this environment, right? You can't have people there. So I was interested to see how the show was gonna be set up. So I did get a glimpse of the show last night. It was pretty great, to be honest.
I thought it was too. I thought it was great. Amazing. Yeah. And they showed, so Mr. Billy, they had presenters from different parts of the country, and Mr. Billy was one of the presenters, and he told a story about James Brown, and his grades weren't good, so he sent him off and said, you better bring those better, good grades back here. And he did a whole presentation, and he did one of the awards presentations. So do you know Mr. Billy? And I'm just so excited that you worked at the Apollo.
Yeah, so I know Mr. Billy Mitchell, Mr. Apollo himself. I do, and he's amazing. He's such a lovely, warm man. Like whoever you saw on TV last night, I didn't even know the Grammys were on. What was I doing? I was working, but he is so kind, and all of that energy is real energy. And he actually. I talk about Harlem like I discovered it myself, but my parents were bringing me to Harlem. I grew up in North Jersey, and my mother is a playwright, and Billy Mitchell has acted in her plays, and so he's just amazing. And every time I see him, it's like just a warm wind of fresh air. That's who he is. Yeah, that's awesome. I'll watch the clips.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Like I wasn't really into the culture in Harlem within that time. Well, I don't think I was born, but I started diving into this because, you know, Harlem Nights is one of my favorite movies. But also when the Madam C.J. Walker kind of thing on Netflix came out, and it shows how she went up to Harlem to make these really executive business decisions and deals. I was like, what was going on in this space? And it kind of took me down a rabbit hole of all the great arts and Black businesses that got started up in Harlem. So that's amazing to be a part of that and get to work with other minorities in that space and just feel that energy. I think I haven't worked in that space, so but I can imagine it feeling like this magical power of culture and force just behind you, running audio or lighting in these type of venues.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, from everybody who's there is very, very professional in what they do. You know, everybody knows their work very well, and there is, you know, I mean, and it's not like it's only minorities around, but there's just something about working in Harlem and working in the Apollo where everybody knows how special it is to be there. No matter what their race is, they know how special it is to be there and take the fact that they're there very seriously. And I'm sure that that happens in every theater. I've been in a lot of theaters, and the consensus to behave in that way at the Apollo is very good.
Yeah, you should see what they're doing down here in Florida. That's why, like, it's interesting when we talk about theater in New York, right? You got too much snow, you know. There's a lot of city going on, but like in Florida, I saw this one theater group. It's actually a creative agency, but he, the guy who owns it, is in theater. Like he came from theater, and he just did a show. They just finished up Alice in the Wonderland in the Botanical Gardens, right? And they had like projection mapping, and the audience is following you through. I'm not really sure how the audio worked, but I think they were keeping them in small groups. So it was more of a visual type of experience because there's projection, there's lights onto the trees and the water and all of this. And then you got the small groups like literally following the acts throughout the garden. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool way to get keep the community active and feel a part of the shows and the experience, like really up close and personal.
It's great. It's you know, you have these Black theaters all over the country, right? And I worked at a theater in Chicago called the Black Ensemble Theater, and it's Jackie Taylor is the founder and the owner of the theater, and I worked for her in an arts management class in college, and you know, that's one of the Black theaters in Chicago that I think it's just amazing. All the plays that she's written and all the people that have come through there. She has a play called The Other Cinderella, which I just loved it. It's her signature play there. And then here in DC, the Howard Theater is one of the theaters that has a lot of meaning and legacy behind it. It's, you know, so many of the Black actors and musicians of the time could only go to these certain theaters in every city to be able to perform for Black audiences. Black audiences couldn't go to, you know, some of the mainstream theaters, let's call them. So we had our own theaters, and so it's just this history and reverence. And I was just so excited that you worked at the Apollo, and you know that you worked at the classical theater in Harlem, and I was just really excited to talk to you about those because it reminds me of some of the other theaters around the country that are that have some similar history.
Yeah, and you know, I'm glad you brought that up because I know that there are, you know, Harlem is not the only one. You know what I mean? And the theater group you just brought up in Chicago, and obviously, you know, Howard is just doing whatever kind of Black excellence there can be over there. You know, so but there are just pockets, and I think that I didn't go to an HBCU. And so I think that that was an interesting experience for me to be able to have in the middle of my career, because there is kind of a forging that you can go through when you get to engage and be creative and be free in an environment that doesn't have all of the it doesn't have all the other concerns that kind of come up when you're navigating American race relations in the day-to-day. I don't know. I don't usually talk about this stuff. I'm not an expert on this, but
it's a different environment that's interesting to bring up and speak about, right? Like, I didn't go to HBCU. I haven't worked in a place that is so historically Black. So that's why I said it had to be magical to be a part of something that is so culture driven like that. And when you bring it into the mix of traditional AV, it's completely different, because like you said, those little roadblocks that are set up, or maybe what do we call them, Alexis? Kind of like unconscious bias that we run into in traditional AV. And you said you were forged in there. That made me think, like, wow, maybe I should go check out some spots, see if I can get some of that culture, rubbed off on me, and experience that, because that's something that's not really talked about or highlighted or even noticed from that point of view, if you haven't been on either side of the situation.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the conversation that you have when it's three Black women having a conversation.
Yeah, I don't know another podcast like this out there in the AV industry. So I'm excited to just put this picture in a tweet or something. Like, check this out. And I kind of had this conversation the other day, like, be the change that you want to be, right? So I can't be mad at half the industry not knowing other Black women, because I don't know that many other Black women in our industry. So when I do meet other Black women, I'm like, all right, let's link up. Let's do a show. Let's do a podcast. Let's write blogs. Let's meet editors. Let's shake hands. Let's, build this bridge and cultivate our culture in this space. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things that I wanted to ask you about, I want to ask both of you really, is what types of things are you doing, or what types of things would you like to see to attract more of our young people into our industry? Rachel, do you think there is, obviously there's a pathway, because that's how we all got to this industry, but what does that look like for your students at the school? Is there a pathway for them to come into, to make a career in AV if they don't choose to do a career in theater?
Oh, yeah. Well, I hope so. I actually, I'm the production manager at the school, and I don't know if you remember whoever your technical director was when you were in high school, but it's not usually somebody who anybody is aspiring to be like, right? So I just assume that that's how they see me. And I let them know, you guys are great, you're brilliant, you're very talented, and I know that many of them will want to go on and study performance going forward. And performance is a hard life. It can be, and it's unpredictable. And sometimes you just want to eat. So stick with me, kid, and I'll make sure you can eat every day if you just learn these skills. That's kind of where I am with it. Just to tag on to the other part of your question, for what I would do for young people, I don't think you have to attract people to AV. I really think it's very attractive. I think anybody would want to do it, and especially now with this blossoming of communication that's happening after coronavirus. But one thing that I felt I was missing when I started my career in theater, with the same skill set that I use today doing what I do, nobody told me about it. And I think that's been the difference. And I think that that's why, we look at AV and you see the same person over and over and over and over and over doing it, and there's like a look of what it is and all of that. It's because AV is young. It's what, 30, 35 years old, 40 years old. It's, it's not that old and hasn't had time to develop, but people who are coming out of college and technical school and studying theater and lighting and sound and all of these things, the professors need to be letting them know that you can go to the local hotel and set up mics if you need to. If your creative pursuits are not keeping food on your table, like, just go and do that. And no one told me that, and I had to figure it out for myself. So that's one of the things that my life is about, is letting people know, like, work is available, and it's work that you can love, and it uses exactly all the things that stimulate you about the art.
Yeah, same for me. I think everybody can see that through my content that I create. That's like the forefront. I've always been an audio girl, but I had no idea that AV even exists, right? I thought I was gonna be front of house for Beyonce, and nobody was gonna tell me any different. And then I realized once, I got out of trade school and the job board had all studio gigs up there, and they were internships. So you're like running to get the coffee, going to get the donuts. Like, I was like, okay, well, I really can't. I'm not making the money, as Rachel mentioned. So I needed a way to fund my passion. So that's how I found AV and got into the hotel sector, which snowballed into a in-house gig. So my job when I create content is to highlight this industry as a passion funder. Don't get me wrong, like, conference rooms are great, right? Like, you can make decent money here, but I really like to highlight the creative aspects of AV, because that is the attraction. That's what attracted all of us. We were creative in theater, we were creative in music in some form or fashion, and that attracted us to AV. So I want to highlight the creative, attractive part of it, so they can, there's this gateway of like, oh, what is that? How did you do that? Oh, yeah. Well, you can work for this projector company, or you could work for Allen and Heath. That's your favorite board? Great. Or you like the SSL? Oh, they're hiring audio engineers to develop their boards, So it's like constantly having the conversation of, don't let go of your passions and your creative dreams, right? But you got to have some money to fund those dreams. So why not align the passion with your creative and your craft with making a little bit of money too?
You know what? I agree. And I tell you, Alicia, all the time that I'm trying to be like you when I grow up, right?
I'm
I'm
telling you,
like,
stop saying that.
oh, it's true. It's true. And I checked out your new podcast, The Crash Pad, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be like Alicia when I grow up.
Hey, I'm trying to get my own theme song. I don't know what you're talking about. Alexa's got her own theme song. I don't got one of those. So
I'm working on
like
that.
we're all working our path, right, and keeping our passions aligned with our day-to-day work, and that's what it takes. What attracts people to the industry? Us, how we highlight it. Like, people haven't been talking about it. Like, in trade school, AV was not anything talked about from the professors. So, like Rachel said, we have to be actively telling people this is something you can use to build your career and stay aligned with your passions, and also perfect your craft at the same time. You know what I mean? So that's, like I said, I'm just here. I'm here to connect people. That's my job on earth. I'm sold on that. I'm a connector.
I think that's amazing, and I think that everybody has their, whatever their thing is. I think we all find our thing, and try to put that out there to the universe. And Rachel, like you say, you put it out to the universe, and then all these things doors just start opening, and opportunities just start coming your way. And I think that's how it works too. You have to be open for those opportunities and for those doors to open.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. And I'm trying to figure out, how do you do it? How have I done it? How can I coach someone else on how to just ask, try, and wait. Like, I don't know. I just made that up. That's not that's not a method, but maybe it is. But so far in my life, yeah, that I have really, really been surprised by a lot of the experiences that have come back just from what my heart wanted.
Well, I think that I have some plans for the three of us, and I didn't know about these plans until we had this conversation. So I'll fill you in on that later. We need to talk more about these opportunities and more about theater and our experiences, our shared experiences. So, but we'll catch up with that a little bit later. That'll be a teaser for another time.
I like that.
I'm excited.
But wanted to thank you both for being here. Great conversation. Hopefully the beginnings of more conversations just like this. And let's do it again soon.
Please. And thank you. Thank you so much. This was wonderful, wonderful to talk to you.
Thanks, Alexis. I'm so happy to be on the show and get to follow that awesome theme music that's gonna come on. I can't wait to listen to this one. So just thanks for having me, and thanks for taking out the time to do things like this. It helps. It pushes our industry forward. So thank you for being an awesome role model and a friend, and just doing things like this to keep pushing our industry forward.
Absolutely. I think that we're all champions for our industry, and it's just great to be able to have the platform to be able to talk about what we do and talk about things that are of interest to us and things that are exciting to us, and about live events and theater. It's just really exciting to be able to have those conversations with like-minded people and be able to share what we know and what our experiences are. So thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it. That is a wrap on this show, and we will be back with another one very soon. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening.
Alexis AV Talk. Let's talk about workforce development. Alexis AV Rock. You're invited to the #1 event with Alexis Love.